can you hold people legally accountable when they're politicians for lying to the public? And people were like, well, maybe, maybe not. I mean, it'd be cool if you could, but I don't think it's possible. How do you define lying? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, bitch, fucking Wales becomes the first country to enact rules for firing politicians for lying.
Which country is this again, sorry?
Wales.
Wales, nice.
It's the one with the big red dragon, which according to creationist logic means that Wales currently has dragons in it, because you can't draw anything that you didn't see right now in your current life.
Well, I mean, that is the lore. That is the lore behind the dragon, right? Is that there are dragons in Wales. They sleep under castles.
Oh, okay.
Do you like that shit? Congratulations to Wales.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to going through this law a little bit on my own time.
Man,
or
I
on
want
a
to
stream.
move to Wales now.
Right? Isn't that cool? That's so cool. But this happened because earlier
Wales,
in
the only country with a higher per capita number of sheep than Australia.
But there was this that happened earlier.
Too, by the way.
Oh yeah. This happened earlier in the year. Catastrophic day for Welsh Labour from May 9th, 2026. So, incumbent First Minister, I'm not going to try and pretend I know how to pronounce anybody's names, lost her seat in the 2026 election, making her the first head of the government in UK history to lose her seat whilst in post. Following her defeat, Miss Morgan announced she is standing down as the leader of Welsh Labour. It comes as Welsh Labour secured just 9 seats overall. She said, quote, Welsh Labour has today suffered a catastrophic result. It ends a century of Labour winning in Wales, and the party will need to take a really hard look at itself and understand the depth of the challenges that we face. Like, bro, what an L to take.
I mean, I think one of the things that Labour in the former United Kingdom has a big problem with is trying to communicate with the public what they're doing, right? There, of course, it doesn't help with the fact that people like Murdoch and the Tory press and the Tory rags are spewing kinds of stuff, but Labour seems to be very poor at communicating things that they've done, and they've done some significant things. It's just that the public is not learning about it, and now of course there's other unique problems in Wales as well, and it is a sort of a sad thing that Labour seems to be unable to communicate well with the public, and so the public essentially gets tired of it.
Well, how are you going to have a government that's supposed to be for the people, by the people, not knowing what the hell they're doing? Like, what's going on, guys?
But this is even more so that they're really poor at social media. Labour Party in general, and they are. They have they're pitiful amounts of communication. They are doing it traditionally, but people are no longer on traditional media sources, and so they don't own the narrative. And when they do something important, it kind of gets lost in the thing. Meanwhile, you have essentially fascists like Farage getting all kinds of airtime. And he is very good at using media and getting his name out, sadly.
Yeah, which is no good. Nobody likes that guy. That guy sucks. Or too many people like that guy. I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
It can be both.
So what do you guys think?
So
Do you think the law about lying is gonna get people like Farage in trouble? Because, maybe his party members in Wales?
Well, there is one thing, which is I think it's going to be very, very difficult to demonstrate that someone lied. Now, I haven't read into this law, so I don't know all the text, and I'm not a lawyer, but generally speaking, if by lie they mean what I normally mean when I say that someone is lying, that means they have to know that someone intentionally told a false truth or a non-truth in order to influence people in some way, which means you can't be mistaken, you can't be misremembering, and that's one of the problems with crimes that are mostly thought crimes, right? It's one of the reasons why things like grape without the G are hard to prove, because it involves mental states that don't leave physical evidence. Like, what does the evidence of consent look like? Well, it's a mental state that you had or didn't have. It doesn't leave behind lots of evidence, so we have to use proxy evidence. And I think this will be a similar case where it's like, because it seems like it would depend on the state of mind of the politician, it'll be tough. But then again, I would love to see a politician fired for lying.
Yeah, I think that's great. In my opinion,
I think-
now, I'm not a lawyer, so, take it for what you will, but the way I was presenting the idea is the same way you would do perjury, right? Perjury is like when you're speaking to the public as a politician, in your capacity as a politician, and you're addressing the public, whether it's on the campaign trail or whether it's on, like, you're doing an address of some kind, or you're doing a Q&A, whatever it is, a debate, whatever it is you're doing, you should be held to the same standards that you would be under a court of law. Be like, if you are purposefully misleading the judge, so you wouldn't necessarily have, it's the same thing as like doing things like actual malice. You don't actually have to be malicious in your intention. Actual malice is something different, like something along those lines, presumably. And there are already rules for what that looks like and definitions.
If you look at, for example, Westminster Parliament, you're not allowed to mislead the House, or and so the House of Commons, and you can actually be sanctioned severely if you do so. But what's misleading is a complicated thing, because there's a difference between that and a difference of interpretation. And so it really becomes, one of the tricky parts about it is who judges this to be the case. Now, what's supposed to happen is if you stand up in House of Commons and make a statement that you later on learn is not true, then you're supposed to go back at the earliest opportunity and correct the record. And that's fine. It's when you don't. And Boris Johnson was really notorious for this, of just out and out lying. And what happened was that the House of Commons convicted him of being a liar. And he's one of the few people now you can say Boris Johnson's a liar, because the House of Commons in a vote determined that was the case. Because normally you're not allowed to accuse someone of lying. You can't say, no, you're lying. You actually have to go and have an inquiry and then force them to try to correct the record. But again, this type of thing is quite tricky. By the way, I put a link in our chat description, but gotcha. I would shout out to a show called A Different Bias, and a gentleman who puts out lots of contents, but basically about what's going on in the British government, and he's got some very interesting takes on it. He also, because people like Agent Orange and idiots who are here impact what they're doing, they will not that kind of orange, the other kind of orange. Agent Orange will because it impacts things like the like trade and so forth. They'll also do a bunch of things about what's going on during war and so forth. But I would highly recommend subscribing to this person. He's a former teacher. Who also used to do math and other science things, now as a commentator, and his commentary has got lots of factual data in it, and I highly recommend it. So,
to be clear, I would
shout
also
out to A Different Bias.
I would like to point out as well that I don't think any of us are saying that proving that somebody is lying ought to be easy. It shouldn't be. It should be a difficult, and it should be a little bit of an arduous process, because you shouldn't be able to just willy-nilly say somebody says something you don't like, and you're like, well, or that you disagree with, and it's like, oh no, actually that person's lying because I told them something different, or because I found this obscure Google link that shows something different. Like, that would be absurd. But like lying about climate change, or lying about they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, is a really good example that Letty put in the chat. Yeah. Like that is straight up a fucking lie, and there isn't like anything's out of nowhere. And so like something like that should be actionable. And
yes, and consider Chesh, what you said about that notion that Somali immigrants are eating dogs and cats was something that either Agent Orange knew was a lie, or was willing to because one of his problems apparently is that if he says something several times, it becomes true to him, right? And so he basically repeated that statement enough that it, in his mind, became true. But we know that's not the case. But there's no body to come back and force a person to recant. Whereas if you were in House of Commons and you made that sort of statement, if you were Prime Minister and made that sort of statement, then there'd be objections, inquiry, and you would be compelled to come back and and correct the record to not mislead the House.
It also
that
might
doesn't happen.
It might enforce, or it might enable or incentivize politicians to be a little bit more concerned about AI, because if the AI is misleading people by making news articles and stuff like that, it might mislead them, which could get them into trouble, because there would be a degree of responsibility for knowing that what you're saying is actually accurate. So it might, maybe, I don't know.
You mean checking your sources? Where they're coming from?
Yeah.
But there's also like in terms of what's happening with climate, there's a range of people discussing matters on it, and you don't want to have a situation where your statements are not as radical as someone else likes, and therefore they accuse you of lying. Right? You want to be able to have a debate over topics, but you want to be held accountable for what you say. And one of them, maybe that what you have to do is to have a body being willing to go and say, you've misled the body, correct the record, or
Yep.
And also, I
think volunteer to be the body.
Also, there's a difference between factual claims and opinions, so you gotta be careful around that. And also, I think so. Dapper and Chesh and all of you were saying that there should be a proof of intent too around it, and correction pathway. There should be an opportunity presented to the person and say, listen, we'll give you an opportunity to correct yourself. Would you like to correct yourself? Right?
Yeah.
And so, and if you want penalties, you all got to start thinking about how proportionate our penalties are going to be. What's the proportion?
So Nigel Farage received $5 million from one of those crypto people who, as I may have mentioned, cryptocurrency is a scam, and he's one of the people in I believe in Thailand who's been, he's a British citizen, been dumping all kinds of money. And so Nigel Farage literally was saying, I'm not going to stand for a seat in Parliament. This guy gave him $5 million. He tried to say it was a personal gift, and then he said, no, it's for personal security. And then he said there are other sort of excuses. And apparently now he said that I think it was The Guardian that basically broke the story about him receiving some more money, again, from people in this sort of apparently slush fund. And he made a big thing. He said, well, would you believe, basically he said, oh, I've been hacked by Russian agents, thinking that would give him off the hook. But now you have a situation where essentially people said, well, wait a minute, wait. If Russian agents you are now a member of Parliament, Russian agents are breaking into members' phones, that's a matter of national security, national importance. And he's now opened that can of worms up. He hasn't said this in the Commons, so the Commons can't hold him to account. But he may be able to get into problems because he's claimed now that it was Russian agents hacking him into how The Guardian found out the story. Not that the story is false, but that the Russian agents did it. The wheels are running off of his wagon. And so what happened was that when he announced this thing of hey, Russian agents, my phone, that's how The Guardian got this story. Then people said, okay, you should report this to police. You report this to national security, because now it's not just simply a matter of them doing other things. And so now, and he said, well, no, that's just that you don't need to do that. And so the Labour Party said, well, we'll do it for you. We'll report the fact that Russia claims of this stuff, and you have to now there's an official inquiry. And he's saying, no, this is just the deep state trying to do. He's
Streisand affected himself into legal problems.
Stay tuned. And by the way, if you want to get a different bias, you'll have a couple minute segment shows on him. He's quite a character.
I'm actually glad that I'm a little glad that when people started lying and just throwing shit out nilly-willy just to please the commons or the citizens who felt ostracized, right? People who don't follow the science, or just feel ostracized for some reason because they don't feel in control anymore. And these politicians just started throwing out like bullshit, got things like Brexit done and everything based on that bullshit. And now what's happening is their opposition is now learning to use the tools that they have in their hand, the laws, the constitution, the tools, everything that is there to debunk it. So it's like, that's why I'm glad that, because they're not evolving. People who lie, they're not evolving. They're going with the same lies. But the people who are countering them, they are evolving, and they're like, we will get you, and we will find a way to get you, and we will evolve, and we will use the tools we have at hand to do that. And I'm actually glad that that's happening. And we need to start evolving and need to start looking more into constitutional-wise what tools we have to hold such people accountable. Not like, argue with them, but to take them along the path of accountability and say, like they said, listen, this is a serious issue. We are on your side. If you're getting hacked and all this is happening to you, we want to find out, because it can happen to our side too. So I
say,
love
no,
it.
we don't need to invade. We don't need to look into this.
So he cannot. So he cannot go to the people now who is trying to help him and say like that they have ulterior motives or anything like that, or even try and circumvent the argument by or pivot around it by by straw manning, right? He created this issue, and now he has to deal with it, and people are like, we will help you deal with it, let's do this. And he's like, uh-oh. So I'm actually glad that this new evolution is happening.
Yeah. So
it.
subscribe to Bias and follow the story among many things he's covering. So anyway, but who knows? Emmanuel, can you imagine somebody saying false things on social media and being held accountable? I mean, is that
what? Whoa! What do people just go on the internet and lie?
Restraining orders? You mean, oh my God, their channel's getting banned in US? No.
That would never happen.
That would never happen.
Never.